Hello and welcome to R+B Chats. I'm Sarah Broughton, principal of Broughton Architecture, Urban Design and Interior Design, and I'm in Aspen, Colorado today. And I'm very excited to be introducing Paul Bormann of Bormann Architects in Denver, Colorado. Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm delighted to be here too.
Well, thank you so much. A little bit of background on Paul. Paul has been an architect for multiple decades, started his own firm in 1990 and went full-time with the firm in 2010. And so Paul and I have been speaking a lot over the last week about trends that are going on with the current pandemic that we have happening, and quite more importantly, maybe some important trends that regardless of this virus, are really important change makers that we're seeing as architects and designers of residential projects. So we're going to dive right in. That
Sounds
sound
like a
good?
great plan. Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Well, Paul, one of the first things we established in talking is we both love houses from the 1920s and the 1930s. Such an important time for residential architecture in our country. And so one of the things I'd like to start with is what principles from houses of this era are important to today's house design? And how do we modernize these concepts to how we live today?
Different houses from different periods of the early 20th century have different issues. Victorians are very quirky. Those are really pretty much 19th century. And then in the 20th century, you start getting the first generations of modernism, like Craftsman and all the storybook styles of the 20s and 30s, which have so much charm. Those homes really did nurture families as really a big expansion of the United States being the beginning of the American century. So those homes have individual that they have bathrooms in the house, they have kitchens in the house, where before those things usually were outside based on fire and plumbing issues.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the ideas about nurturing people that live in these homes is the same thing that we're doing now. We just have a different set of functional requirements now with the really the escalation of technology. How has technology played a role in upgrading our homes and how those homes are reflecting to it?
Mm-hmm.
So in more specific detail, the 21st century is more of a global century. There's much more of a global economy. There's a lot more digital issues. So our kitchens are a lot more sophisticated, our bathrooms, the amount of storage space we need, not just for clothes, but also for food supplies and the equipment systems in the building, like mechanical, electrical. Those are all quite a bit more specific. So it's almost like early 20th century homes on steroids.
Well, I think one thing that we talked about is, a lot of homes used to have foyers, right?
Yes.
And these really defined thresholds. And as we've gotten more modern over time, and we've really wanted to be blurring the inside and the outside, those really defined vestibules or foyers have gone away. But we both think that there's probably going to be a little bit of resurgence of that, and having that zone that you can go through, maybe with the ability to take off your shoes, store things, a cleaning station. It's kind of, we've talked about the entry and the exit, right? And what is that experience going to be like as we move forward and with our designs?
Well, I definitely encourage my clients to put in entries in a foyer space in their homes and not just walk right into the living room. You usually have a zone there for coats, but let's just say now with this pandemic, it's important to have a separation between, say, your guests' coats and the coat closet. So having a coat tree or having some cubby holes that can house individual people's clothes. It can also include the boots, the hats, the mittens, the gloves, those kind of things as well. So it has kind of a double duty there with the mudroom. There's also the mail is usually coming in through there, so there can be a space for like hand sanitizer. There's some things that the existing foyer space can do to do a double duty now and be a clean zone, but it's also that social separation vehicle that allows us to have people off the street come in and then still be able to practice some of those healthier habits.
hmm I know that at our house we have our mudroom area, and it's also a bar, and so we have a sink, which has been really really handy. We've made it into a cleaning station, kind of within that zone of entering and exiting our house. Is that something that you're thinking about now, like cleaning stations, and how we can be incorporating those in these
Yes.
areas?
In the past, we just had the kitchen, the bathroom, and maybe a utility sink in the house. But now I think it's important that homeowners consider having a mudroom as a clean zone. So groceries that say come from the outside have a place where they can be put down, and maybe cleaning wipes used to clean off those products. There could be some storage at that location, usually a countertop with some cabinets below and shelves above would be a great way to make that transition for those kind of things.
Yep, totally. And I think that's something that is so exciting that we can bring to things that we like to think of storage, and almost they're innate, right? And if they're done well, they're just part of your everyday life. And the biggest compliment we've received from clients in the past is when people are like, I didn't even know I needed that, and like now I have a place for everything. And so I think we have a real opportunity as architects to really anticipate for our clients, and take their goals, and even expand them, and tell them things based on our experience that they may not even know can really help them with their lives. So
That's
I think
exactly true.
it
It comes down to imagination. The
yep,
more imaginative we are, the more design ideas we can throw out, the greater the chance are that we hit on something that's really useful to our clients.
for sure. So another thing that's become really interesting is the home office has become so important, right?
Yes.
And it's becoming a dual purpose space, or has already become a dual purpose space, that there's a private focus importance to it, but it's also a space that's very public. It's a backdrop to these Zoom meetings. It's a backdrop to these multiple public, arenas actually coming into your home. How do we successfully design to support both those functions?
Big part of that process is taking a look at the existing home, seeing what spaces that we have available. So typically in the past, one may just work off the dining room table. You have plenty of room to spread out. That's a kind of a great place to play. If you don't have a dining room table, it could be the kitchen table. Some of the issues with that, though, is mixing work with food is probably not the best healthiest solution there. Having desks in another room, like a bedroom has a bed and dressers, but maybe also has a desk. What's nice about that is being able to close the door and have a separate space for that. In our home, we have a hallway space that connects two bedrooms, and we did a built-in. So we have a countertop with lower cabinets below that have drawers and where we can hide all sorts of the office supplies. And then above, we have a series of shelves where we can put a lot of decorative items. And those spaces tend to be very quiet during normal business hours. That during those evening hours, we're using the bedrooms and the hall bath, but during the day, it's a kind of a quiet space. So there are places in a house, you'd be amazed at how little it takes to create a nice little office space like that. Having some natural light is also a huge part of the whole thing. We have some skylights because we have a 1.5-story home, and they're diagonally above right where our desk is. So it makes it wonderful to look out. You can see the moon at night. You can see the changing of the leaves during the fall. So having a nice blend of natural light, some privacy, and then a functional size. So depending on what you're doing, it has a lot to say with the size of the office.
Mm-hmm. Yep. John and I actually share a home office, and up until the last couple months, it's been great and amazing. We typically start our end our days there before we go into our studio. And but definitely it has highlighted a few things we would do differently in our next iteration. Definitely having a door that you can close off, the ability to have some acoustic separation, even amongst two of us sharing the space. And then we have amazing natural light coming in, but it makes it very challenging when you're on video, right? You get that haloed effect. So it's been very interesting, and we're already seeing it in our designs, really thinking about this kind of chat function, that the office is not only just a private space, but it is something that is now being viewed by a lot of people.
That's correct. So you mentioned before double duty spaces. So being able to have a bedroom slash office, that's an awesome, very awesome
Yep.
arrangement to be able to
Yep.
incorporate.
Yeah, I think flexibility is only going to becoming more highlighted. We've been incorporating a lot of Murphy beds over the last, multiple years, and it's like something that had so much stigma for so long, because I think they were, for a long time they just were not comfortable. They've gone so far, and we custom design them, and so we've been able to create rooms that function as a guest bedroom at that 15% of the time that you need it, but can really become valuable space in a home for those times where you don't have a guest. And so that has become a really important tool for us as we've been designing multi-purpose rooms.
Yeah, so those are all great tools to really make the
Mhm.
most out of a house. Now we don't always have to put on a giant addition, or you can just
Yep.
reorganize some of the spaces to do double duty. That's also
Yep.
true, say, with food storage.
Mm.
You have food storage in kitchen cabinets, but you can also have a pantry that's either a kitchen cabinet or a special room. But you can also do things in the basement where you have a double duty. It's a mechanical room, but if you buy some metal shelves in modular pieces, you can get quite a substantial increase in food storage there.
I
And no
know.
space,
We
just making the
rethinking
most
how
of it.
often we go to the grocery store these days, right? Well, let's talk about outdoor spaces. As we are opening up, and certainly we have a real opportunity this summer to become socialized again, which is something that we've all learned is so important to our well-being. So much of that's going to be happening outside, and I think the idea of of outdoor living spaces is so important as we continue to be designing with this new lens. So, how do we create more functional and efficient outdoor living spaces that are safe for outdoor socializing? What are some thoughts on that?
Well, each project will have a unique set of site circumstances, but the first issue would be to have the appropriate size. If we're trying to do some social distancing, having a larger patio space would be advantageous to that. Just a small little 10 by 10 space may be enough to get a couple of chairs in, maybe more like a porch size. But now what we're really looking for is something with a lot more space per person. So if you have, say, 4 to 8 people, maybe you have something more like a 16 by 16 or 20 by 20 space. That space can be divided in ways that provide some functional abilities. So using, say, potted plants to divide off zones could go a long way to doing some social separation and some functional separation. The other thing, that having different types of covering to
Mm.
define spaces. One space could have a pergola style or a trellis, and you could also have a fabric structure like an awning, or maybe it's a true back porch with a full porch, and you have one set of functions there, maybe rocking chairs under the porch, but then out on the patio you have maybe a fire pit, or even a TV, an exterior TV out there for entertaining. But I think you're right, is that we've all now valued our social interaction in a way, and the outdoor space is the easiest way to accommodate a larger group of people and not feel like you're right on top of each other.
Hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that we've done immediately with our outdoor space is kind of get it, that 6 feet. We've really been thinking about 6 feet in such a different way, and so having furniture that's easily movable, that you can alter to create those safe zones. I love the idea of the potted plants. Even in bed, right? How we design our beds, right? That maybe they come into our hardscape to define maybe some corners that are really nice to inhabit, instead of thinking about it as just one big square. And I think another trend that we've been seeing a lot that's even more highlighted right now is the ability to grow your own food.
Yes. So
And And
Raised
so
garden beds.
yeah, it's so important. And so I think we have an opportunity as architects to be really thinking of our design in the garden as well, and how we can go full circle with these ideas, which then brings in the bees. We're all about the bees. It's so weird. John and I talk about it all the time. We haven't been seeing very many bees, and it makes us sad. So, we need to be planting our gardens so that way we can be growing food and bringing that full life cycle.
I just saved one from the inside of the office here, big yellow jacket, pretty scary.
Good.
So one survived. The other thing that seems to always be involved with American domestic architecture is the amount of things that we've collected. And it's also true with the outside and corralling those things in storage spaces. So that can be on the inside of the garage, a built-in system where you can get all the lawn chairs in there, or the cooker, bikes, all that normal stuff. But you can also do sheds on the outside of the garage. And in Denver, we have very strict open space rules. So for even just a few square feet, it's almost like a closet attached to the outside of the garage. You can store things that you're not using. So if you want to have a big event outside, well, you can pack away those things that you don't need and clear out the space to make it more functional. And then if you have a different use, go back to the storage, pull the things out that you need. Sometimes out of sight, out of mind gives us more of a simple lifestyle, which I probably think many people are striving for.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your insights today. I've really enjoyed our conversations, and hopefully this is it's certainly been helpful for me, and so hopefully it's helpful for everyone who's listening. And I think we have such an opportunity to make our lives much richer and fuller through our homes.
That is correct. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to share.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, everyone. Thanks for the chat, and thanks for tuning in to R+B Chats. Bye.
Goodbye.